Hello and welcome to episode 60 of the Sales Syndicate Podcast. I think anyone watching on YouTube will definitely recognize the company and hopefully the person. Very, very well known on LinkedIn. We're going to be talking about using unconventional backgrounds in a conventional industry, which might sound a bit confusing at first, but it's quite simple. And I think everyone's going to have at least experienced themselves, or they know someone who has. So you might be working with someone who's got an unconventional background and you might not know it, but hopefully we'll chat through some of that today. But I will hand over to Mike, the guest for today, to introduce himself and the company before we get going. So over to you, Mike.
Hey, Jamie. Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm Mike. I work over at Lavender. I'm a part of the sales team here. And prior to Lavender, I worked at a company called SaaStr. Before that, which really makes me who I am, I was in the military for 5.5 years. So I did 4 tours overseas, lots of stuff. I was a targeting chief. And so quite a bit of fun, but absolutely no sales experience. I had stumbled into sales. And so I think that's what we'll be covering today.
And speaking of SaaStr, I think, what was that, last week? Or was it over the last few days, wasn't it? So I've seen a lot of it on my feed. Yeah,
it was last week. It was a great time too. It was fun. I got to see the whole team, so that was cool. It was the first time that and since working at Lavender, every single person in the team had been in one place, and so it was really, really fun. We threw an awesome party. We like to throw parties, so we had our Alice in Wonderland psychedelic theme party. We had this wild caterpillar that was smoking hookah there, and we had trees and all these fake mushrooms, and it was really cool. It was a fun time. Yeah,
it looked unreal in the video, and I think, what was it, over 1,000 people in an aircraft hangar, something like that?
Yeah, over 1,000 people in this private executive aircraft hangar. And it was funny too because and this was also goes into what we're talking about today, was an unconventional background was what helped our team. Was me and all the ladies that are on Lavender's team don't really have sales or strong true backgrounds in what we're doing. A lot of us come from just random haphazard places. But what helped was when we first walked into the venue, the hangar was massive, right? We knew it was going to be big, but it was very big, compared to what we thought it was going to be. Because we were just oh, it's a private aircraft hangar, it's not going to be that big. No, they had it private aircraft hangar so that 3 different jets could be in it, right? So it was massive, and we were worried because we didn't know if we were going to be able to have enough people to have it look even full, right? Because you would probably need 2,000-3,000 people is what we thought. And so we did some kind of just planning and very, very last minute, what can we do? What other props can we get and everything else to just make this space seem better and more filled. And it all came together really well. It was within the first, we completely flexed from what our original plan was. Nothing that we originally planned is what we did. We completely changed it all very last minute. And yeah, when we opened the doors, we did some mass guerrilla marketing. People didn't even know where the event was 24 hours before we released it. So I actually was responsible for sending out the event invites the same day that the event was. And so I got, there was 1,700 registrants. So I sent 1,700 individual calendar invites, technically, right? I did it all at once, but the worst thing you could ever do for your email. All right. I had so many emails so fast.
Any time that I have to send something that's got more than 5 people on it, it's squeaky bum time. It's it's horrible.
It was awful. Yeah. And it was funny too, because I got to know before the whole team how many people were registered for this event. But I think it compounded because since I sent the invite out and it wasn't this webinar invite kind of thing where you can't tell how many people are coming, you could see how many people were registered, right? And so you just saw this number go from I sent it out and it went to immediately 100, and then 200, and then 300, and then 400, and then it went to 600. And then I went to a customer meeting and I came back out and it said 900. And I was guys, we need more alcohol. Yeah, we didn't know how many people were going to come, but we knew there was going to be quite a bit.
Yeah, it looked unreal, and I can see a festival on the horizon for you guys. I know you guys are thinking about it. Lavender Fest, like Tomorrowland, but Lavenderland. Oh, you can just see it. It's almost too obvious, isn't it? You can see it.
We'll give you guys some special news. Yeah, you're not too far off. It's not it is Lavender. Lavender is gonna, not only are we doing the event space different, or sorry, the email space different, but we're also going to change the way that I think people look at events, especially corporate events, and how you can have some fun with it.
Is it that something to do with the tool you guys use to handle the invitations for this event?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say, because it began with P. I can't remember what tool you guys use, but I was like, it had that lavender vibe about it, and I was like, is this a second product subsidiary of the? Or I was like, okay, this makes sense.
No, it's definitely more of an event thing that we're thinking of. But you are right when you say that we love raves, we love festivals. Our CEO was at Burning Man. Our CEO and our CTO were at Burning Man, stuck in the mud prior to SaaStr. And yeah, they go to like everywhere in Europe, and we travel quite a bit. Yeah, Tomorrowland's pretty dope.
Yeah, we got an event coming up in SaaStock, Dublin, in October. So we've been. It's certainly inspirational, at least watching you guys. So I think there's a lot to learn. And obviously, for anyone who doesn't recognize Lavender, one, where have you been? Two, go and check them out on LinkedIn or YouTube. Watch all the videos. But like we said, we're going to be talking about unconventional backgrounds. I think a really good place to start is what you mean by an unconventional background. You've kind of alluded to it already, but what do you mean when you're talking about an unconventional background?
Yeah, I think an unconventional background, right? The best way to describe it, and probably not the exact definition, I like to just kind of make up, like, I think if you're looking at things in the dictionary literally, then you live a life that's not very fun. But I think,
and you're probably not unconventional if you are.
You're probably not unconventional, right? Exactly. Yeah, you're exact opposite of what we're going to talk about. No, unconventional backgrounds are really anybody who's coming from a place that doesn't have direct. Right. It's not like you're getting into sales from the military. That's an unconventional background, right? When you go to apply for a job and you don't have direct experience, you have an unconventional background. They don't see it as like, okay, you could actually be put into this role, pretty seamlessly. They see it as like they're trying to connect the dots. And the problem with unconventional backgrounds is it's not the actual quality of the worker. In fact, people who have unconventional backgrounds often work much harder and oftentimes are more successful than those who took a very traditional pathway, right? But the big reason why that is because I sent 350 plus, like almost 400 different applications into companies when I was trying to get into sales, or really any job. I didn't really know what I wanted to do coming out of the military. And every call that I got back was either a no. I had one person that was like, yeah, sure, we'll talk to you about a possible SDR role. But it was a recruiter, and they told me that I wasn't even qualified to be an SDR. But the reason why they were saying this wasn't because of me. It was because when they looked at my resume, all they saw was this dude was just a military guy who has no idea what a quota is and couldn't even tell me these acronyms. And I'm like, okay, you didn't even give me the chance to talk about myself, but okay. I mean, I don't want to work with you if that's the case anyway.
And hey, look at you now, right? Look at you now.
Yeah, and it's kind of what you have to do, right? I think unconventional backgrounds, if you look at the group of people who come from them, they oftentimes have to be their biggest supporter at first. It's yourself, right? I think the only reason why I got into sales, actually I should say I know, the only reason why I got into sales was because of Jack Ryan. He used to be my old manager at SaaStr. He literally just gave me a call. I messaged him about burritos on LinkedIn. That's how I got hired. All right. I saw his post talking about breakfast burritos in Southern California, and I'm a big breakfast burrito or just burrito in general fan. And so I shot him over a LinkedIn message and asked him what he gets on his burrito and where he is in SoCal, because it'd be cool just to meet him. And he asked me what my order was first, and I was like, this guy plays chess. Because he didn't know if I was just going to say, yeah, I like the same thing or what. I'm sure he was probably getting a bunch of people trying to do that. So I sent him over what I like. And then next thing you know, he got me a burrito and he was like, you want to come work with me? And I was like, what do you want me to do? He's like, I got this job. It's called an SDR. It's a sales development rep. And I was like, let's do it. And yeah, the rest is kind of history.
Kind of, touched on it slightly there. Military background. This is probably slightly so I don't know, self-interest for me. Like I'm intrigued, right? We got a guy who worked in our tech team, and I worked with him for 2 years. And
Yeah.
it was only after he left that we found out he was in the military and did like 3 or 4 tours, and we were like, what? So tell me a bit about your military background then.
Yeah, so I was a targeting chief. And so my job was to primarily hunt and find like high value targets or high value individuals. And I could go into that more. I guess I should, yeah, because you directly asked me that, and then I can go into how it correlates to sales. But essentially, what I did was I would ingest a ton of reporting. So you can think like millions and millions of pieces of data, like just reports coming from real humans across the entire world, right? Or world events that were happening. And I had to try to make sense. Basically, what you're doing is you have an endless amount of puzzle pieces on a never-ending puzzle board. And you're trying to fill out where those puzzle pieces go to make sense of what the possible picture is before it gets so big that you have no idea what it's doing, right? And so you can tell it's this game of just never ending kind of like mental focus. And that's really the best way I could sum up what I did was, every individual target or individual place or person that I had to find, right, played a tiny part of a very never-ending big puzzle, right? And the faster that I could fill in those parts, the faster we might be able to find out the bigger picture. And that was my job, was to be able to find out the bigger picture as fast as possible and really go out with some of the teams to do some business.
Yeah, and I think I remember you saying on the kickoff that was, what was it, 4 or 5 years, something like that. You did that for?
Yeah, 5.5 years. Yep. I spent some time in the Marine Corps and at JSOC.
And I recognize JSOC only because of Netflix. I don't know, SEAL Team 6, all of those sorts of programs. So it takes your mind in a certain direction. But I think it was almost like the perfect example of that unconventional background being used in a conventional market, because I think you gave us some of those tangible links between what you used to do in the military and what you ended up doing for SaaStr. And you told me a story about how you absolutely smashed it out of the park with SaaStr. And, after that story you've just told us of sending 350 applications. So, like, why did you do so well at SaaStr?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I think what I can attribute to is I was just myself. Like, I think, I've never read a sales book, even to today, ever in my life. I've never read a sales book. I've never studied a methodology or anything like that. I mean, maybe Jen Allen, you could subscribe Jen Allen as being a methodology. She's like my best friend. Love Jen to death. But
yeah, we had her on a few weeks ago, and she
Yeah.
was brilliant, and she's doing big things. So yeah, big up Jen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, her whole demand gen stuff, which she's a phenomenal speaker, and I'm lucky to call her a best friend. Jen is very, very near and dear to my heart. But I think I equate it back to really just being myself. Like, people always ask me, what sales methodology do you use? What do you read? What did you study? How can I be like this? And I always come back to them and I say, I use the Mike Wander methodology. And they're like, well, that's useless. And I'm like, exactly. You see, you don't want the hard answer, but the hard answer is you have to put in the hard work. And all I can say is, from the time that I got into the military to the time that I was in it, to the time I got out, back into sales, and to today, nobody's ever handed me this perfect thing on a platter and just been like, you deserve it, here you go. It's always been, he'll do the hard work, just give it to him and he'll figure it out. And I think that's this thing that I leveraged when I got into sales was, I know nothing. I'm like a baby, like a baby human who can't walk yet. I can't even crawl. I'm just trying to like soak everything in the environment. And so that's what I did. I went back to what I know at my core, was I got on every single call that I could get on. I read every email that Jack had sent in the last 60, 90 days. And I looked at what was making him successful. What were the things that he was saying? What were the things that he was doing? What were the things that my teammates, the AEs were saying? What were they, how were they getting people to get those aha moments in demos, or to make them realize the value that SaaStr could bring to them? And what I did was I took all those things, saved them kind of in my brain because I don't like to take too many notes like that. And then my brain, I just kind of go through it because that's what I had to do in the military. Was a lot of stuff is just mental processing for me. And when I did that, I found like, all right, there's a really cool way that I could articulate some of these things in email. And so I started to just email in a very non-conditional or conventional way. And what I found out was people enjoyed it. People liked to see a pattern interrupt inside their inbox. And I fell in love with the email game. It ended up booking me a ridiculous amount of meetings every month. I was booking like anywhere between 25 to 35 C-suite level meetings a month. That was as eventually full cycle. But yeah, I mean, I had a over 1.1 or $1.2 million close in my first 90 days on the job, and I had a $1.5 million quota. And by the time I had left SaaStr, it had doubled within I doubled my annual quota in 9 months. So, I mean, it worked, but I think I was really the short answer, and really the not easy answer is that I was just willing to put in the work.
Yeah, when you said the Mike Wander method, that's another thing that's got a ring to it as well. But no, it's interesting because Lavender, just in general as a company, nothing they do is conventional, is it? Like there is no typical bog standard off the shelf methodology that you guys use for anything almost.
Right, and what it is, and we all subscribe to this, is that every single person on our team has something to offer, whether they're an intern, whether like our engineering team, people don't realize it, but they're 60% of our company. So when we threw that party, all those wild Lavender people that they thought were marketers or salespeople, they were all our engineers. Our engineers even have personalities, right? Like they're probably some
and that's saying something.
Exactly, right? And they're probably some of my favorite people to talk to. But the reason why we're able to capture this culture at Lavender and this I would say this sense of like you mentioned, like everybody realizes we don't do things that are very conventional. The reason why we're able to do that is because when somebody gets hired into Lavender, we don't put them into a box. And that is exactly how I view my leadership style. And that's how I'll always lead. Is the best teams that I have ever led, whether it was in the military or it's in sales, it doesn't matter. I never put somebody into a box when they first joined the company. I never said, hey, welcome to the team. Here's this massive curriculum, right? Like learn it, love it, live it, and it's going to work. That's how you create robots. I don't want a robot. I want a human. So what I do is I say, hey, welcome to the team. Here's what Lavender is. Here's what problems we solve for, right? If they probably already know that if they're getting hired here. But I say, how would you articulate that? And I want them to come up with how they will talk about it first, because odds are, and I've seen it, almost every time someone talks about the tool or somebody mentions something that from their experience or from somebody they know's experience that we never thought about. But I would have never got that if I never asked them. Right. And so I just think like you have to really hone in on some of these out of box thoughts and ideas before you just throw everybody into just some box and just say, hey, seal it up. That's the latest sales team. Here you go. We're going to put it over there.
Yeah, no, that box, that really speaks to me as an individual. I was at a company previously, one of the UK's largest car insurers. I joined there as an opportunity to learn something new, and I was very quickly put in a box, and I couldn't step outside of that box. And it was 2 years of doing the same single, very finite niche part of marketing, very, very dull, for 2 years. And then I've come to the Intelligence company I'm at, and I basically have complete freedom to do whatever I want, as long as the only sort of metric is, does it bring us closer to our ultimate goal? That's all I have to be mindful of. And it's such a stark night and day. I don't know, just complete and utter mental freedom of being able to express the massive ideas and thoughts that just go on in your head.
Right. And that's what you want, right? You want for your workers to wake up every day and say, I think I have an idea. And that's what you want, right? Like you want that stop, you want that pause, you want them to be excited about bringing something new to a company. You don't want them to wake up and be like, I already know what's going to happen today. I'm going to wake up, I'm going to drink coffee at this time, I'm going to go to lunch at this time, I'm going to probably take some internal meetings from 1 to 3, and then I have like this meeting that I have to take, and then I'm done for the day. Because what happens is now you've just created a robot, right? Like a blank canvas can be scary, but it can also be the most beautiful thing that's ever been given to a human being. If you don't put somebody into a box and you allow them to be mentally free, they'll turn a blank canvas into a, Picasso or Da Vinci masterpiece that you never even imagined. But you got to let them do it first. And it's okay, because sometimes they're not going to turn it into the masterpiece right away. But you as a leader need to be able to steer them into the right direction.
I've always had this weird sort of theory in the back of my head, right? So you watch Formula One and you've got these Formula One drivers that are the best at driving in the world, right?
Yep.
But out of the 7.5 billion people around the world, how many top 3 Formula One drivers do you think there are that have just never stepped foot in a car?
Exactly.
And that's like, I find it like I've never tried the majority of Olympic sports, but who's not to say that I could throw a javelin further than anyone else in the world if I've never tried it?
Exactly.
Like,
right?
but we're on this path of sometimes restricted path where you don't get the opportunity to try things, and like you never know what's going to happen. But aside from those issues and like biases, like what are some of the biases associated with unconventional backgrounds in terms of why people would avoid them?
Yeah, I think there's an inherent risk of like, is it going to work out or not? Which to me is kind of crazy, right? Like, I think it's easier to say somebody went to school and they studied business and they they took some sales classes, so they have a background. That's not a background. And in fact, it's actually not even good, because most of the things that you learn in school, you get to your job and they're like, all right, everything you learned, forget about it. You know what I'm saying? Forget about it. Like, it just generalized everything you're going to do. And I'll ask you, Jamie, you went to school, right? You went to university. How many of the things that you learn in university are you actually applying in your daily life?
No, it's not many. Like, not many. But the only thing I'll say is that is I did design. I drew. That was my background,
Right,
was
you're a
art and
marketer
design,
now.
right? But now I work in a highly tactical sort of role. So I do get to do the creative stuff, but there's all that other stuff that I'm not qualified to do.
Right, that you excel at.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at your background, you should be doing, creative design, and you shouldn't be on a podcast. Right?
Yeah, I should be in a studio getting briefs, being told what to do and delivering assets on time.
Right, exactly. And so when you look at it, it's like there's a sense of security is what it is. There's a sense of security. People don't like to take risk, especially when there's something on the line for them. Somebody is less likely to take risk if, when things go bad, they are going to reap the, not the benefits per se, in a sense of like, it's obviously went bad, so they're going to reap the repercussion of it, right? They're going to probably get told, like, are you really a qualified manager? Because you just hired this person and it was the worst thing we ever did. But look, you're going to fail, right? You're going to fail. You are. Everybody is going to at some point in their life, whether they're the most successful person or not. Like Jeff Bezos, the man failed 1,000 times before he created Amazon, right? But when you think about why people are so hesitant, it's just because they personally have never lived your life, right? They personally don't know your experiences. I don't think it's as like personal, like vendetta, in a sense of like, some people are like, oh, they hate to hire out of the box, like, people that are out of the box. I don't think that's ever really the case. I just think that people struggle to truly understand what value you are going to bring by looking at a resume. And that's where it's a little bit of an unfair advantage for people who have conventional backgrounds, is like they can write their resume in a very true, I had a $3 million quota and I closed $7 million in 9 months. Like, holy, you know what I mean? This guy's got his head on straight. But for me, it was like, I never held a quota. I never ran a sales call. I never sent sales emails, right? But what I did do is I had a bunch of different data pieces. I had an organizational structure, or sometimes didn't have one. I had to create an org chart. Then I had to say, okay, here's my buyer, my target, right? Here's all the people around my buyer, which was my target. Who am I going to influence, or who am I going to penetrate to draw out my buyer, right? And when I explained that in an interview process, immediately the light bulb went off for Jack. He was like, dude, that makes sense. Like, that is literally, that's harder than what we do, right? Like, you're going to have an org chart, you're going to have the emails, you're going to be able to talk to them. It's like, I never got to talk to these people. You know what I mean? I never got to meet these people. I sure as hell didn't sit on Zoom with them, right? Or send them emails. And so there's a lot of things that I did that just don't make sense to somebody who's never had the chance to do them before. And so you just have to really master your craft of being able to articulate that, because if not, if you can't articulate it, then it's really impossible for the person who's interviewing you to understand what value you can truly bring.
And I think, look, in hiring managers and companies' defense, look, you're so cautious about mitigating risk and spend, and at the end of the day, it's potentially your head on the chopping block. So yeah, look, let's be honest. If you're making an investment, a financial investment, you're going to go with the safest bet, even though maybe in your heart you don't want to, but in your head you're like, look, I've got to hit targets, and if I don't hire the right person that's going to contribute, I'm not going to hit my target, and I could be at risk. So look, I can understand why you don't see it more often. But then, like, we've sort of touched on a couple of them, but then the big benefits to organizations who just go balls deep and say, no, look, we're going to hire people, not
Yeah. We're not going to have people,
pre-construct.
not titles.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I was trying to say. We're going to hire people, not titles, not CVs. We're going to hire people. What are the big, like, I guess, you know, we can talk about Lavender as well, but like, what are the big benefits of doing that?
Yeah, I don't even think Lavender, like, you could take Lavender out of the equation. I think the benefit is very, very obvious, right? Look at the best cultures in the world. Look at, why do people want to go to Los Angeles? Why do people want to go to New York? It's not because they're so beautiful. It's because they have culture. They have culture, right? Los Angeles and New York are home to some of the best food. San Diego, I live in San Diego. I could walk down my street. I've got a Vietnamese homemade place. I've got a Thai homemade place. I've got Italian. I've got Mexican. I've got everything. You know what I mean? But that's what made the city beautiful. And that's what makes a company beautiful, is you need culture. You need diversity. You need people who have out-of-the-box thoughts, out-of-the-box ideas, different backgrounds, different ways of thinking, different morals, different beliefs. Right?
You need flavor. You need spice.
The best chips are oftentimes not plain, right? And if they are plain, they probably got some salt and pepper. It's a little bit of flavor on there, right? Like, you don't fry a potato and say, I'm going to sell this, because no one's going to buy it, because it's going to taste like one thing. But what you can do is give it a little bit of spice and flavor, and then you can start to sell it with a little bit of a sandwich. Right? And so I think that's just kind of how you got to view it, is the benefits of an organization. I mean, you could use a lot of orgs as a case study for this. I think Canva is probably the best one. I don't think Lavender is the best one because we're still small. I think Canva is the best true, diverse, 100% free, mind-flowing company. Like, that's what they are. It's what they do. And so they, like, ingrain that into their people. And I give Canva credit to really revolutionizing the different modern workspace. I think Google has done a very good job of that. I think they're way too big to use as an example, because, like, they didn't do it at first, right? They definitely did that as they grew. But you can tell the reason why they became who they are today is because they did that, right? There's a lot of ideas. The people who deliver products for them, the people who own products for them and own ideas, oftentimes are people from different backgrounds. And so, yeah, I would say, like, the best primary use case of what would happen is look at Canva. Canva's a really good example of that.
Yeah, I mean, we use Canva every single day, and I do, and I've used it for probably the last 10 years of my career. And when you actually read if people don't know the story of Canva, about the founder, go and read it. It's super, super interesting, and like some of the features they're releasing at the minute are just ridiculous. Are there any other like highlight companies for you outside of Canva that are unconventional in every way?
Yeah. Not that comes too far off the top of my head. Like, not ones that really blow me out of the water. Unconventional. I think like it's a very new thing, right? It's a very new thing.
Okay, how about unconventional people?
Oh yeah,
Peers, people you've
unconventional
worked with. Go
people.
on, let's do that.
There's a whole slew of them. People who are at least are in SaaS that are unconventional. Look at like Riley Blaisdell. Riley Blaisdell is a really good friend of mine. Riley he used to sell gloves, like latex gloves, to drivers, to places, like all sorts of stuff. And the
He
dude's
must have made a killing during COVID.
right? Yeah, that's what I said. Well, it turns out that the margins on gloves are a lot different than the margins on software. No, but that's what he did. No, Riley's a fantastic guy, but he's got an unconventional background. Alex Brucci, really good friend of mine, super unconventional background. I mean, the dude worked with cars before, right? Now he's got a podcast singing software, just like yourself, right? I think people who came out of being like stay-at-home moms who did not sell before, they're really good at crisis management. They're really good at talking to people. A phenomenal thing there. Her name is completely escaping my head. She works at Deal now, and she's gonna make fun of me if she sees this because we're good friends, and I can't remember her name right now. My brain, sorry, first thing in the morning. But teachers, a lot of teachers that are out there. I guess we could talk about titles rather than just people. But teachers, massive, massive benefit of hiring them. Almost every teacher that I've ever seen work in sales has just dominated it. Because I can tell you right now, selling a group of, whether they're high schoolers or elementary kids, to sit the hell down and listen to something for 45 minutes is impossible. All right. Like, we were all those kids at some point. But teachers, athletes, I mean, anybody who is doing something that was not selling before is oftentimes very successful today.
I really like the sport. I'm big into the gym, and I've been sort of into the gym for about 10 years. And I think anyone who can go do something, whether that's weightlifting, swimming, archery, you name it, day in, day out, and make tiny, ineffectual percentage gains week in, week out consistently for years, that's a person that I can work with.
Yeah. Do you know what the ultimate similarity is between all of these unconventional backgrounds?
Go on.
Take a guess.
They love self-harming themselves with tiny little changes every single day.
Micromental improvements. Micromental improvements. That's what we focus on. That's what we harp on. The way that I held my weapon, the way that I read a report, the way that I thought about something. I tried to change fractures of a segment to become the best of the best that I possibly could. The way that you lift a weight, the way that where you're pulling down, the way you're pulling up, how fast you're doing it, the volume that you're doing it. Like, people see it as, I'm going to go bench. Let's go rack it out. There's a lot more to it. What frequency are you benching? How many sets are you doing? What are the reps that you're doing? Are you tempering? Like, what different things are you doing to make yourself better? You can look at like teachers, right? You can look at all these different places, but what happens is micromental improvements are what make or break you, because in the backgrounds that we are in, oftentimes we're on regimented schedules. And so if you fall into the daily schedule of it, you fall out of love with what you're doing. But if you fall in love with the process of what you're doing rather than the title, you focus on micromental and fractionary improvements. And that is what the similarity is between people from an unconventional background versus somebody who's in a conventional background. Because if I talk to somebody who's been in sales for a while and I start to hear them, they're focused on what they've always done to be successful. They find success in something. Next thing you know, they're creating a consulting agency. They're going out and they're doing all these different things with consulting, but it's all based off what made them successful when they were doing it. The problem is sales is ever changing. Every environment's ever changing. It doesn't matter what background you're a part of. And unless you're focused on every single day making incremental improvements in your process, you're going to quickly fall out of love with what you're doing. And you're going to fall in love with the title of what you did.
I take it you're a fan of Atomic Habits, the book.
Fun fact, actually, and she's going to kill me for mentioning this. So do you know Maria Bras?
I don't know.
Not, you should get her on. She's dope. But
I'm gonna write her name down now.
Yeah, Maria Bras. She's a great friend of mine, and Atomic Habits is her favorite book. It's so funny. I'll also shout out Masterclass. I can send you a link after this. Masterclass is doing a free 1 hour webinar. It's a 1 or 2 hours webinar. I think it's an hour with the writer of Atomic Habits. It's a free webinar.
James Clear.
Yeah, James Clear. You get to do like Q&A with him, all sorts of stuff. But he's doing an hour free webinar, and I'll send you the link because you're probably a fan of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna register to that now.
I've never read the book.
Oh, it's so good.
I don't even know what it's about.
So those micro mental changes that you talked about, it's basically how, I guess the way to write. So people want to lose weight, and instead of losing weight, all you need to do is, okay, you might need to go to bed slightly earlier so that you wake up fresher. You might need to make your meal the night before, so when it comes to lunchtime, you're like, oh, I've got nothing to eat. I'll go out and I'll be, I don't know, tempted into getting a McDonald's or something. It's all about these tiny little habits that on their own mean absolutely nothing. But when you add them up over the course of 365 days, they add up to one big, massive change that you can make. And it's a great book. It's an absolutely fantastic book.
So it's a good example. I think I've lived my life that way. And I subscribe to that methodology. And I actually have coached that methodology back when I was in the military. And I do it even still today. I had no idea there was a book about that though. That's pretty cool. Maybe I will read it. But yeah, I've never done that. I've always lived my life that way though. Like I've always told myself, and I've always explained something that doesn't seem big to you that you're doing now, like this action of sending the follow-up email right now is going to prevent you from being stressed in the next day, which will prevent something other, possibly a major thing from happening 2 days from now. And so I like to call it what I equate it to. So it sounds like James Clear equates it to atomic habits. What I credit and acclaim it to, and something that I've always coached, is called ripple effects. And it's something that actually I taught at Lavender. And we've actually put it as part of our culture here, which is really cool. But it's I just came up with this. I just call it a ripple effect. And my idea is you always should be leaving positive ripples. And what I do is I have a 15-minute calendar hold on the end of my day every day. And it's called ripple effect. And I will ask myself, who did I talk to today? How did I talk to them? What did I say to them? And could anything that I have done rub somebody the wrong way? Or did I do something that I should not have done? Or did I forget to do something that I needed to do? And my intention with this is not to be hard on myself. My intention with this is not to be hard on anybody else. My intention is to make sure that when I'm done with work, I can leave positive ripples everywhere. And I don't have to go to bed or go, get off of work and worry about, oh, did somebody, possibly misconstrue what I said to them? So what I'll do is if I made a mistake, and you can ask my team, I will email them or my team. So I'll Slack them and I'll say, hey, I think I said this to you today. I just wanted to make sure that we're good because I didn't mean it in a bad way. But when I thought about it later on, I think I could have came off in the wrong way. And oftentimes they'll reply back to me and be like, actually, yeah, it was in my head a little bit, but no, I appreciate this. I get where you're coming from. Thank you. And then we're good. But if I never would have sent that, over time, that builds resentment, that builds, disliking, that builds almost into hatred. And so it's something very, very small, but you could practice it in anything in your life. You can do it with relationships. You can do it with work. You can do it with the gym, right? What ripples did you leave on your body? Right? Did you feel a little bit weird in your shoulder when you were doing shoulder press today? If you did, maybe you should ice it a little bit. Maybe you should do a little bit extra stretching. But you got to just take some time, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and just think about what you just did and how that can impact you later on.
That's powerful. That's I've not heard, obviously not heard of the ripple effect. It kind of reminds me of, I think there was a film back in the day called The Butterfly Effect or something, and it's about the basic theory is if a butterfly flaps its wings somewhere, it causes a tsunami the other side of the world. Positive and negative repercussions of every decision and everything you do. There's a positive or a negative repercussion of that. So that you should, to your point, you should make sure that every lasting thing that you do leaves a positive, in this case, ripple. That's going to make for a fantastic clip. I can see it already. That's something I think I could personally adopt as well, because I've had comments before saying that I'm very direct with my emails to the point sometimes that it comes across as I'm being very cold and being very unemotional, like I'm too forceful in my words. But in my head, it was just a quick just get it out, get it
you're
done.
Just replying. You're just answering somebody, right?
Interesting. Well, that's certainly one I'm going to adopt. For individuals that are listening or watching that feel as if they have an unconventional background, what are some tips that you would give them for transitioning into a conventional role? Like, how can they make that easier? How can they find a role like you had to?
Yeah. One, it's never going to be easy. Tell yourself that right away. If you tell yourself, I'm going to find a job, it's going to be all fine, it's going to be easy, don't. Because you're setting yourself up for failure, because it's not going to be easy. There's going to be adversity. The first thing you should do is tell yourself exactly that. I will be met with adversity. People will not know the value that I bring, but understand to yourself that you know the value that you bring. The first thing that I would do is write down everything that you have done in your unconventional background, no matter what you did. And take those things, match them up to not just the role, like the title. That's what people fall into, the title of what you're doing, but match them up into the actual objective of what you're doing. So for me, when I was in sales, right, like I couldn't have said I had a quota. If I was looking at a job description, I would be like, I am unqualified for this job 100% of the way. But in reality, the only thing I actually had a quota, right? It wasn't a number. I mean, it wasn't like, Mike, you got to target 15 people this month. It was more like, if you don't target these people, a lot of bad things are going to happen, right? A lot of negative ripples are going to be left in the world. And so that's the quota I held myself to. And so that's what I had to do, was I had to stop looking at the job description as black and white. And I had to start looking at it as a direction, what they're asking for, not what they need. Oftentimes it's not what they need, right? Most people don't even know why they're hiring for the role they're hiring. They're just like, I need somebody to close. So let's take the same AE job description that we stole for our second AE that we ever hired, that we got from this other company who's successful, and let's just post it online. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what goes into it. And so I would say that's the second thing. Look at what you've done, write it down, match it up to the idea of what they want you to do, and you can probably connect those dots really well. The next thing that I would say is stand out from the rest of the pack by not just submitting an application. Somebody who has a conventional background is comfortable just being like, here's my cover letter, here's my resume. I'm just going to submit my resume, and like, I'll probably get a call because I line up with a lot of what they're asking, right? They're banking on getting the call based off of doing a very low effort thing. But one simple thing you can do is send an email. Send an email to the hiring manager. Send an email to a manager at the company and just get your name on their radar. When we were hiring for a second AE at Lavender, we had over 700 people apply. 700. We didn't even post the job description. 700, but we're an email company. You know how many people emailed us? Less than 10. Less than 10 people. And then out of those 10, half of them actually used Lavender to do the writing assignment that we gave them. You're applying for an email company who sells email software to salespeople, and you didn't send us an email. And then you didn't use the software to write the emails we were asking you to write. Like, I can already tell you're not going to be successful at the job, because our demo are our emails. Is our emails. Like, if I email you, Jamie, and it's the worst thing you've ever seen, you are no longer going to be interested in my product because you aren't going to want your sales team to send emails like that. If you're on a call software and you're the worst cold caller, nobody's going to want to take a demo, because they weren't interested from you. And so I just think, like, I don't know, when you're an unconventional person going into a conventional place, just understand that you actually have more benefit and can bring more value than anything they could possibly have.
I think that's three very, very good tips there. And I think that if you've got an unconventional background, I think what I took from that is use the unconventional methodologies and the unconventional things that you've done to deliver or to appeal to that conventional that role. So rather than avoid it and try and hide it, not shine a light on it. Like
Right.
make it obvious.
Exactly. Make it obvious. Make it obvious that you don't know everything, but you're willing to figure it out.
For companies that might be thinking, shit, we're quite conventional. Damn it! Like, how can we become more unconventional? What do you think are some like really easy things that they can start doing very quickly? I appreciate cultural changes can take a lot longer, but like, what are some of the things a company could start doing very quickly that would help foster a culture of inclusion from like that unconventional?
Yeah, there's a lot of programs that are out there for like DE&I stuff and everything else. But I think the one thing, like, without even, you don't have to spend money on it, right? Just be willing to accept risk. Like, I would even say in black and white, like, maybe one out of every 3 hires shouldn't match the job description 100%. Right? Maybe like every third or every fourth hire should be somebody who only checks off 50% of the boxes, and they're going to be hungry to check off the rest of them. It fosters a different type of environment, right? Maybe you make it where, hey, we have 100 people in the company. We want to make sure we have X% of our company as veterans or athletes or teachers or, whatever. But like, think about what role, an unconventional role, could apply very well to what your company does, or have a good cultural fit to what your company does, and go and hire them. Right? Like, if you're a seller, I mean, I think military people can fit in pretty much anywhere, but athletes are really good sellers, really good. Right? Now, would I say an athlete who has no idea what accounting is would be a really good accountant? I don't know. Maybe if they're really good at numbers. Like a bodybuilder or a weightlifter, probably. They can crunch some numbers. They're doing a lot of spreadsheet work. But like, that's something that, like, I see you're smiling, Jamie, people don't realize, right? Like, bodybuilders know a lot about numbers. Very, very.
Yeah, I'm not a bodybuilder by any means. That would be arrogant of me to say that, but I love Excel. I track my diet every single day, and I have done for years.
Exactly. There you go. Right. And that's probably more than what a typical accountant does, right? You can look at a spreadsheet and you know what it's doing. And so that's my point, is like, there's just like different differences there that you could, if you really think about it, you can find somebody from an unconventional background who could really fit in. And as long as they know, like, realistically 20-30% of the mission, they'll figure out the rest.
Yeah, I mean, the accountants is quite a good example, because there's a running joke that accountants can't add, right?
Right. Accountants can't add.
I don't know what it is, but they seem to make a lot of mistake with numbers for people who are qualified. I shouldn't say that. Okay, there's probably not going to be any accountants on the listening, but this is something I remember off the kickoff, and something I know that you're a big believer in, both personally and as a company. Is I think we phrased it as this ocean of regurgitation, which is LinkedIn at the minute, which is just full of those carousels of like how I booked 150%. How do you stand out in that cesspool that is that
disgusting? It's like every 5 posts, talking to X multi-million founder. Just turned 30. Here's 30 things. You got like the ESPN does 30 for 30. Let them do that. They're great documentaries. 30 for 30 is great. We don't need to see any more 30 for 30 learnings, right? Like, not even from Bill Gates. Like, we're good. Nothing that you've learned at this point is applicable to me. I'll let you in on another kind of sneak peek. It's something I've been working on for quite some time. And it's the title of it is called No Name. It's going to be a bit until it comes out, but it's something I've been working on for quite a bit. People that regurgitate information want to make a name for themselves. They take something that they saw from somebody who has a name or is a name, a symbol, an idol to them that they saw have success with, and they try to change and shape their being or their name to equate that to what the other person, their idol or whoever it is, right? Like Kyle Coleman posts a post about how he talks to 100 sales leaders a month, right? I'm choosing it as an example. The next thing you know, probably a couple thousand of Kyle's 100,000 plus followers are going to start to post very similar things, right? Because it went off, the post did great, things like that, and it works. The problem with this is we're generalizing everything. We're generalizing absolutely everything, and we're just saying shit. Like, we're just saying information that's out there that sometimes people aren't even doing. Like, there's been people that are like, hey, sellers, here's how you should be doing it, and they're in marketing. Like, I'm a buyer, I have enough calls, here's how you should do it. It's like, great, you had one call. Like, yeah, I mean, for one problem. I'm talking to hundreds of problems that are hundreds of different things every day. Like, don't tell me how to do my job. You know what I mean? I'll take your advice, I'll take it, but I'm not going to apply everything. Like, don't act like, there's a different way to say it. And so what I like to say is be a no name, not a name. Sometimes the people who have the wisdom you're seeking are the people that are in unlikely places that you've never got the chance to talk to, or that have never said what they want to say before. I give a lot of leadership advice, but if you look at it, people are like, he's this young, he's this, he has only been in the role for this long, he's got this much experience. Sure, you can say that. If I'm vanilla ice cream, you could do it, but I'm not. Right? I've lived what I would say is like 3 or 4 lives already. I've seen a lot of stuff in my lifetime. I've got a lot of experience. But if you look at my age and you look at just the vanilla ice cream, you're not going to take that for it. Right? I get people who tell me all the time on LinkedIn, why do you do email rewrites? Or why are you posting about sales email? You've only been doing it for a year, or for 2 years, or so on and so forth. And then I ask them and I'm like, I'm not going to feed into it, but I asked them, I'm like, do you equate wisdom to time? And they'll always say, well, yeah, wisdom is time. Oh, you're not a wise person. Some of the wisest people I know are people who haven't done things for a very long time, but they've lived a lot of life, a lot of it. And experience is what equates to wisdom. And you can't judge somebody's experience level based off of the little time that they've had here.
Yeah, I mean that no name stuff sounds super exciting. This episode is probably not going to be out until December, so no name may or may not have already been out by this point.
Yeah.
So you got plenty of time. But okay then, 2 last questions for you. What flavor ice cream would you be then if you're not vanilla? That's question 1.
Black raspberry chocolate chip.
Very specific. Black raspberry.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Raiders
nice.
Ice Cream. It's a place in Cincinnati. It's my favorite thing in the world, but it's also something that, like, I don't like black raspberries. In fact, I don't like raspberries at all, but I love this ice cream. I don't know. It's interesting.
I don't think I've ever heard of a black raspberry.
It's a
unless it's what we call blackberries over here.
Blackberries, yeah. Blackberries, black raspberries.
Yeah, okay,
Same thing. Yep.
Interesting. Yeah. Not a flavor I've ever had, but it sounds banging, I gotta say.
It is. It's super good. And it's like all French pot ice cream. So if you're ever in Cincinnati, let me know and I'll take you to Raiders. But
amazing.
Pretty dope.
And then the final question, I think you've given us loads of names of people that like have inspired you or you think are great. But who do I need to get on the podcast and why?
Maria Bras. I would get her on here. I would get Riley Blaisdell.
Just writing these down. Blaisdell.
I would reach out to Jack Greener, my first manager. He's a really, really good dude. And he's got a super good story. He was paralyzed, fully disabled, climbed to Mount while, coming off of being paralyzed. and he still does rock climbing and everything else. He was basically at a 0.001% chance to walk again, and he is now not just walking, but running, cycling, doing everything he could possibly do. Just mental fortitude is the name of his nature. He's a beast. I would say those three. I don't want to like over and done you, but those three are really good guests. I would reach out to them. I would say like Maria Barras is a really good one to talk about atomic habits with. Jack would be a really good one to talk about, how he literally went from, his major injury to recovering, and then sales and all the different complications he's ran into in his life, just like overcoming things, and like what is really true grit. Because I hate to hear it. Like, I hate when people say you need grit to be in sales. I'm like, bitch, you don't know shit about grit, like, but my bad. Sorry for the language.
No, there are no rules in terms of language on this podcast, so we're all good. We've had people on here talking about cocaine and hookers before, so it's all good.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, but it's true. It's like there was a post at one time that somebody was like, it takes mental toughness and grit to wake up every day, look across from your bed at your computer, and log in and start doing cold calls. And I was like, you must be the most pansy ass person I've ever met in my life if you think that is mental toughness and grit. I will tell you what mental toughness and grit is.
Hey, but I bet they've got 2 degrees and a master's under their belt, haven't they?
Yeah, right? They're fucking experienced. No, you're not, right? They don't know shit. They don't know shit of wisdom. And I can tell you that right away. It's like you are the definition of like a white piece of bread. Like there is nothing else there, like mental toughness and grit means something to me, right? It means something to me. It's like you're sleeping on 3 hours and you have a 4-day op, and you're carrying everything that you need on your back, and danger at every corner, walking in the middle of nowhere. Right? And you have one objective, and you either make it or you don't. That's mental toughness, right? That's mental toughness. That's extreme mental toughness, but that's mental toughness. Mental toughness is not like, fuck, I got to get out of bed and make these cold calls. Like, no, that's just like doing your fucking job, But society has made everything something. So there we go. But yeah, and then for Riley, you could talk to him about a whole slew of things. He is a master of community, food, life, golf, anything, sales. He's the one.
Golf, okay. I've just got into golf. Yeah, perfect.
There you go. Yeah, Riley's golf, numerous courses. He's a great human being. Riley is a fantastic person. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, look, that's a great place to finish. I really appreciate you jumping on. I think that for me has been an extremely insightful chat, and actually more than anything, just a very interesting chat to have for 58 minutes. So really appreciate you jumping on and making the time for us. And for those that are listening or watching, please make sure you follow, subscribe, hit the like button. I'd be shocked if you didn't want to leave a 5-star review after that. So please do. And we will catch you in the next episode. But Mike, massive thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me, Jamie.